Hey everybody, this is Freedom Fastlane, and I'm Ryan Daniel Moran. Today we're going to be discussing one of the most important skills that you can learn and master as someone who wants to take control of your own life, and that is delegation. We're all busy. We're all insanely busy. We have 1,000 things going on and 1,000 different thoughts going on in our head. And one of the best things that you can do is to focus on the things that are most important or most valuable to your time. And the only way to do that is to clear out the rest by handing it off to someone else. Now that sounds like it might be really expensive, but it doesn't have to be. Today we're going to be joined by Chris Ducker. Chris Ducker is one of the authorities on outsourcing and automation to my favorite place to outsource to, and that's the Philippines. I travel to the Philippines regularly. It's one of my favorite places to visit. You'll find out why in this call. And Chris lives there down in the Philippines, and he's going to be sharing exactly how to have someone handle all of the tasks in your life that are sucking out your time. Anything that can be done virtually, whether it's managing appointments or managing email, or the things that take up a bulk of your time that don't put money in your pocket or serve you in some other way, can be handed off to someone else. And we're learning exactly how to do that from Chris in today's call. So prepare to get some of your time back in this call with Chris Ducker. Hey everybody, this is Ryan Daniel Moran, and you're listening to Freedom Fastlane. If you are a freedom seeker, which you obviously are, then one of the most important skills that you can learn how to do is automating your life. And today, that's why I'm really excited to bring Chris Ducker to you, because Chris is pretty well known in this space for matching people with others who can really automate their lives. And today, we're going to be talking about productivity. We're going to be talking about how to get those monkey tasks off your back so that you can focus on where you are the most productive and where you create the biggest and most results. Chris, thanks for hanging out with us at Freedom Fastlane.
No problem, Ryan. All my pleasure, man.
Chris, you live in my favorite city in the whole wide world. You live in Cebu City in the Philippines, which I'm biased towards because they love white men with beards, and I happen to be one of those. So I was quite a celebrity there in Cebu.
I tell you what, I don't want to burst your bubble here, but I gotta update you, man. The girls here actually prefer, based upon my personal experience, obviously, they actually prefer a very clean-cut guy in terms of a long-term type of relationship deal. Now, that being said, I think were they touching the beard a lot?
They were not, but they wanted pictures of it all day long. And based on my experience, I won't be changing a darn thing.
Right, okay, leave the beard. The beard stays. Moving on.
Chris, why don't you tell us a little bit about you and a little bit about your business and why the heck you live in the Philippines?
Yeah, sure. Well, I came here 13 years ago. It was business. I came over to work with some of the international banks over here with their telemarketing and their customer service and stuff like that. And I bounced around a little bit, worked for basically 2 or 3 of the major banks, one after another, after getting poached from one to the other. And then in 2004, I started setting up call centers for other companies that needed a presence here in the Philippines for whatever reason. And 2006, started doing it for myself. So in terms of the empire, if you want to call it that, there's 3 businesses. They all sit under the Live to Sell group banner or umbrella. So there's a Live to Sell, which is the call center. We do outbound and inbound kind of customer support and lead generation and stuff like that. That's more of a corporate type setup, right? So, some of our clients are, Inc. 500 companies and things like that. And then we have Virtual Staff Finder, which is kind of what the majority of people know me for online, which is the virtual assistant matchmaking service. And then more recently, about a year or so ago, I opened up Location 63, which is Cebu's first ever co-working space.
Fantastic. Now, a lot of people who listen to Freedom Fastlane are entrepreneurs, or they want to be entrepreneurs, and there's just so much stuff that it seems like we have to get done and learn and understand. And you've partnered a lot of entrepreneurs with virtual assistants who can help them. Some people think that it must be really expensive in order to get a virtual assistant. I'd like for you to address all that a virtual assistant can do for people, especially those who are just starting out or who are really busy. Maybe they even work and are saying, I have no idea how I'm going to find time to start a business or get any of my life back. And let's talk a little bit about the costs, because we have this idea in the States that it's super expensive, but once you go overseas, things look a little bit more attractive.
They do. I mean, ultimately over here, you're looking at, usually about a third of what you would pay domestically. But I'm always very, very fast to say that it's not about, unless obviously you're bootstrapping and you're on some kind of budget, outsourcing is not about outsourcing to somebody because they're cheap. And I want to make that really, really clear from the outset, because cheap doesn't always mean good. Right? So, there's a fine line, there's a balance that you've got to gauge between what do I really need to put overseas? What could I keep local? Is there people locally that could actually handle this better? Even if I'm paying more, is this better for my business? So ultimately, the real question is, you should be outsourcing the task or the role to whoever's the best person for the job, no matter where they are. However, if you are like most small businesses and you do have some kind of a budgetary constraint, or you're bootstrapping in some way if you're just starting out, then obviously going overseas is very, very attractive because of the cost-saving benefits attached to outsourcing to places like the Philippines, for example, right? But I mean, to answer the early part of that question, which seemed to me like there was about 4 or 5 different barrels to the question, so I'll try. You are. You're good at that. I know. I'll try and sort of, kind of nutshell it as much as possible, and maybe it'll throw us into a different kind of, conversation. But ultimately, there is one role. There's one role that I believe every small business owner, every entrepreneur, every solopreneur, whatever you want to call yourself on the planet, should be hiring for today, if they haven't already done so. And that is a general virtual assistant role, or what I call the GVA. The GVA is, without a doubt, the single most important person that you can lean on to help you day to day more than any other employee. I mean, that they're real, true life time savers. And I always say, and I've been quoted 100 times on this in various podcasts and online and blogs and everything, I always say that time is our most valuable commodity. It's our MVC. And as entrepreneurs, because time is our most valuable commodity, we need to make sure that we are utilizing our time as best as physically possible every single day. And having a general VA in place allows you to become a hell of a lot more productive, because they can handle things like filtering through your emails. They can do things like managing your blog posts and drafting out your blog posts, managing your calendar, your schedule for appointments and podcast interviews and things like that. They can do all of your travel itinerary. They can, put together, things like customer service emails and that sort of type of stuff. Right the way down to, literally this list, by the way, is not necessarily endless, but it's huge. So everything from things like, checking your voicemail and transcribing that and then emailing it to you so you can read it in 1 minute instead of listening it for 3 minutes. I mean, there's so much they can do for you. Creating reports, working with other types of virtual staff, and acting almost like a bit of a project manager. Social media is another huge one. Social media is huge. So, all these different things ultimately end up with you being more productive from a day-to-day standpoint when it comes to your business. And they should not be ignored. These people are huge. And if you want the huge list, and I mean very, very huge list, there's a post that I did on my blog, which is very, very popular, well over 100 comments, and it's just chrisducker.com/101. And I literally end up giving you 101 tasks that you can outsource to VAs. It's a very, very comprehensive list.
Just the ones that you mentioned out loud, I can't even tell you how many days I've spent doing just those things full time. It's sometimes I've said to people before, sometimes I feel like my full time job is email.
Right.
just getting through email and social media. And at the end of the day, I look back and go, what the hell did I get done today?
Right, exactly. And email is a huge one. I think every entrepreneur on the planet is definitely stuck in their inbox more than they need to be. I have a couple of things that I do. So I got a 3-click rule for myself that my VA who handles and filters my email for me also follows as well. And it's a 3-click rule. Very simply, once I open an email, I will either A, reply or forward it, B, delete it, or C, archive it. That's it. I will never, ever open an email, close it, and then go and open up another one and come back to it later. I just don't do it. Just that 3-click rule right there alone will shoot your email productivity up through the roof. It's some real hardcore, state of mind thing there to not click around and go from one to another. But once you get into the practice, the physical practice of actually just clicking and opening an email once and it forcing yourself to, do something and not just sort of, go back to it later on. It takes a while, but it's well worth it in the long run. It really is. And my VA that filters out the majority of my email every day before I even get started working in the morning. Marie, her name is, and she's been doing that. That's all she does for me. She just filters my email. I pay her a full-time wage. She works between 2 to 3 hours a day, and I'm more than happy to give her that $600 a month just to manage my email because I get about 250 emails a day. So by the time I wake up in the morning, Marie's gone in, she's replied to everything, she's spammed everything, she's forwarded stuff to my PA for things like speaking engagements or podcast interviews and all that sort of stuff. And then I'm left with about maybe 50 or 60 to go through myself. That's worth $600 a month. And that one thing right there. At
$600 a month, that GVA is absolutely tickled pink. With that,
oh my good God! Yeah, particularly as I'm not her only boss. She also works with one other person who pays her. I would have thought. I've never bothered to ask her, to be honest with you, but I know she works for one other guy full time. So she works for me 2 or 3 hours a day, and that's all that role needs. And then she works with somebody else, I would have thought, for probably 6 or 7 hours a day as well. So she might be doubling up. I don't know. But ultimately, yeah, $600 a month, even for a full-time role, is just above average over here. So you talked about salaries and guidelines for payments. You're looking at around $500 to $600 a month, 40 hours a week for a GVA.
Some of the best advice I ever got on hiring assistants overseas was to pay 10 to 20% more than what other people are paying. And so the best person I ever hired, we just paid $800 a month to do customer service, which is a pretty, just about anybody can do that job. But yeah, it was the person we wanted. We paid them 10 to 20% more than what was expected. And that person's been with me 2 years, is just automatic, gets things done. And for $800 a month, that person answers phone calls, makes phone calls, does all of our customer emails, upgrades people when they need to be, takes care of all of our refunds. And it's just that element of our business I never have to think about anymore because Kirk takes care of it for $800 a month.
Yeah, you can't put a dollar amount. You can. It's $800 a month, right? That's what it is. So I don't understand people that consistently they don't pull the trigger on this. You can't talk about this subject without talking about the freaks of nature that us entrepreneurs are, right? Because I have a book coming out next year, and the opening chapter is called Superhero Syndrome, and it talks about how we as business owners believe that there's no kryptonite out there. We believe we're the strongest people in our universe. We can do everything better than everyone else. I joke and say that, the word recharge only actually applies to our cell phone, right? Yeah. So it's all these things combined. Understanding that when you recognize and you notice that you're suffering from superhero syndrome, and almost all small business owners are or have done at some point or another, understanding when that overwhelm is there, is so damn important to not only your personal productivity and your personal growth, but also your business's growth as well. And as an entrepreneur, I feel that we should always be thinking about growth. The moment you stop thinking about growing your business is the moment that you start losing business, because you can bet your bottom dollar that your competitors aren't.
Yeah.
So, there you go. Business lesson 101, done.
You mentioned something interesting on that point, which is once you start automating the things in your life that aren't so productive, all of a sudden you can start to think about those productive things. And Chris, there's a lot of people who have small businesses that haven't thought about productive things in a while. And sometimes I almost think we think about unproductive things almost as a crutch because we don't know what we would think about if we weren't such busybodies. I'd like for you to address that growth aspect and the types of activities we should actually be focused on as entrepreneurs.
Well, that's the word right there. Should. That's the word. Okay, because if you sit down and you make a list of all of the things, all of the tasks on a day-to-day basis that you feel that as a business owner you shouldn't be doing, I guarantee you that list alone is enough to start your outsourcing journey. Mm-hmm. All right? Because it will genuinely, you'll have to engage brain here. All right? These could be tasks that A, you enjoy doing. They could be tasks that B, you're actually pretty darn good at yourself. So you don't necessarily have to outsource those tasks. You might not even want to outsource those tasks for whatever reason. But should you be outsourcing them as a business owner? Are there other things that you could be doing in place of that time to be able to strategize for growth, create new products, come up with new service ideas, handle your top 20% of clients, because we've all got our 20% top tier clients that we should be spending time with. Yeah. And I refuse to believe, even in today's very online world where a lot of things can be automated and scheduled, that 20% client base, you need to talk to those people. Mm-hmm. You need to pick up the phone and talk to your 20% most important clients at least a couple times a month. Because if they're with you month in, month out, and they're within that 20% bracket, they deserve your damn attention, regardless of how much money they're spending, right? So, that's the question right there. What should I be giving up? What should someone else be doing for you as an entrepreneur? What else could I be? What else could I be doing with that time? And I think a lot of people don't ask themselves that question, and they need to start doing it.
Yeah, both in the 4-Hour Work Week and some of Evan Pagan's stuff, they both echo each other where they say sometimes it's just good to have somebody on call where you can practice handing things off to. You can just start practicing getting good at the art of telling someone else to do something for you. That was a little bit difficult for me because you're used to having everything on your plate, or those who are in full-time job position are not used to that idea of I can hand this off to someone else. It doesn't have to be my responsibility every single time. And once you get that mentality of I don't have to do everything myself, all of a sudden building a business doesn't feel like this pressure on you so much as it is I just need to develop systems and processes that the people that I have in place start to execute.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with you. And, you said it right there. The people that I have in place start to execute. Because, a 5-minute Jing video showing your VA how you like a blog post laid out, design-wise, subtitles, bold, italic, page breaks, where to put images. Do you want a frame around the image? Do you want a caption or not? These little things that, we could do them ourselves. In fact, we probably even enjoy them a little bit, right? Let's face it. It's our blog. It's our baby. We like messing around with that stuff. But the fact of the matter is that if someone else can be doing that work for you, then as a business owner, you could be spending more, that time on something way more important, way more income generating focused. And that 5-minute Jing video that you Dropbox to your VA is then the start of a online, ever growing encyclopedia of training for your virtual team. You do it once. And then any new VA that comes on board in the future just goes to the blogging folder in your shared Dropbox folder with your team and opens up the video and watches it. And now they know how you like your blog posts. It's not just one, it's two, it's three, it's four. And that way you're building in redundancy, which as a business owner is also something that a lot of people dismiss, particularly small business owners, particularly freedom-based business owners, where they are floating around the world, with the laptop and sort of, working out of, Google Apps and stuff like that. They might only have one or two people in place. If one of those two people disappears on you, or if they get sick for an extended period of time, or whatever the case may be, because you don't have the redundancy in place and those systems set up, you might get yourself in the hot water.
Yeah, I'm guilty of that. And I just want...
Me too, totally.
I want to echo, though, what you just said, because I think it's a great idea of keeping video systems and processes in video. I've always done them in text, and I'll be honest, I don't enjoy making systems and processes and writing them out, so I neglect way more than I should. I honestly never thought to just fire up a quick video and make a quick system and then keeping that. So anybody that comes on board can say, oh, this is how you do your blog posts. I want to thank you for that, because that makes things so much easier.
No problem. And, the beautiful thing about doing a quick video is that, you're going to end up typing the same thing anyway, 9 times out of 10. Emails get lost. Word documents get lost. You could argue and say, well, a video could get lost as well. But you know what? If you've uploaded that to a private Vimeo account or a YouTube account where it's private and it's not offline, or it's not available online, rather, those videos aren't going anywhere. If you've put it into your Dropbox, if you've backed them up, they're not going to go anywhere. And there's something about video as a medium that virtual workers really enjoy, particularly here in the Philippines, because not only can they hear your voice, so they get to know you in terms of your personality and how you like to, become enthusiastic at certain parts and, certain things you might want to sort of focus on and you can truly kind of emphasize certain things verbally that you can't in writing. I mean, you might be able to cap something or put something in bold, but it's different. Right. And the great thing I've heard from VAs over and over again, particularly here in the Philippines, is that with video, they get the opportunity to not only hear you, but also see exactly what you want done, how you want it done, when you want it done, and a lot of the time why you want it done, because you'll start talking. You just start rapping. And there's certain things that you won't do when you're writing, the little side comments that might come out. And again, with video, they can go back and they can play that 3, 4, 5 times if they have to really get what you're wanting to get across. It's a great medium. I love it. I do all of my training via video, literally all of it.
All right, so we've covered the importance of getting the things off your back that aren't productive and aren't producing revenue. We've talked about some of the things that you can outsource. We've talked about how much it costs. All right, Chris, now tell us how the heck you find somebody that's going to do these things that's actually qualified to be a good VA.
Sorry, buddy, say that again. You broke up just a little bit towards the end of the question there.
That's all right, I'll edit it. So now why don't you tell us exactly how do you go out and get somebody who's qualified in order to do all these tasks for us in order to free up that time?
Yeah, I mean, look, before you even get to that point, you need to figure out what type of outsourced worker you need. Is this a task by task type of deal? Is this just a one-off project? Or is this a team member that you're looking to add on to your team? So, the first type of outsourcing is project-based or task-based. So it might be a logo that you need designed, or some video transcribed, or a landing page developed in PHP, or something like that. So they're one-off projects. Once they're done, they're done. And you're better off going to a job board or something along those lines and getting those kind of tasks taken care of. But if you're looking to hire somebody to add to a team or to start building a team, you need to get a little bit more serious about it. You need to really make sure that you do your homework on them. If you're finding them on, different sites, and particularly job sites and hiring sites and things like that out there, because there's a lot of obviously bad apples in the basket as well as great good ones as well. And so things like, getting your interview questions, really solidly down, making sure that you always ask for references and following up with those references. A lot of virtual workers think that they can get away with not providing references, and I call an insane amount of BS on that, because if you've worked and you've got work experience, unless you've done something to upset one of your past bosses, on my experience, I'm always happy to give a reference to somebody who's potentially left my company or my employment on good terms. You know what I mean? So, those two little things right there. And then obviously making sure that when you are on the interview with them, that you try and get into their personality a little bit more as well, rather than just talking about work, work, work. Talk about what they like to do on the weekend, what their favorite movie is. Tell me a little bit about your family. If you could go anywhere in the world for vacation, where would you go? These sort of more personal questions allow them to let their guard down a little bit and be people. And that's exactly who we're hiring here. Your VA is a person. It's not a program. It's not a process in itself. So you have to understand and appreciate that as well. And once all those things are covered, you'll have a pretty good shot, hopefully, at, hiring somebody that is going to have a good opportunity to grow with you.
Yeah, I found that the more of a personal touch you can give to your outsourcers, the more loyal they are and the harder they work. When I was in the Philippines, I met my VAs, and I mean, there's just no replacement for that. At that point, they're with me for a long time. They'll continue to do a really, really good job, probably even upped their game at that point, because I flew to see them. I went over there and shook their hand in person. One of them actually picked me up in the airport. He stuck his hand out and he said, "This is real." That's how he greeted me. This is real. Yeah.
Well, there you go. And, because they're not used to it. They're not used to it. You are the virtual boss. Very few people that have VAs here in the Philippines will come out to meet them. I know one guy that's based out of Australia who's worked with his VA for 5 years, never been here to visit. And I turned around and I said to him, "Why don't you just come over? Bring the family, have a holiday, and just enjoy the Philippines. It's a beautiful country. Some of the most beautiful beaches and coral that you could want to float around in. Just, come over and enjoy and meet your VA and blah, blah, blah." No, I can't be bothered with all that. I can't be bothered. I was like, well, okay, but you don't understand what it will do to your relationship and for your business to see them face to face. So you know what he did? He flew his VA to Sydney. He took care. He couldn't be bothered to come over here. So he took care of all of her visas and stuff like that. Flew her over. She stayed with the family for an entire week, and then put her into it was great. He put her into like a spa for the day. Gave her a whole makeover thing and all the rest of it. Took photos. Introduced her to everybody in the office and went to dinner and all that sort of stuff. So he did probably above and beyond what he would have done if he'd have visited the Philippines, but he brought her all the way to Sydney. And she now runs a team of 5 VAs for him, because everybody in the office fell in love with her and said, "I want a VA." So now all of his department managers have got VAs, and she is managing them as a VA team out of Manila. And that's a true story, and it just goes to show you. I mean, it took him 3 years to get his ass, to get her ass over there. And now, within the last couple of years, they built this whole team, and his business is thriving because of it. Productivity has soared.
Now, will you tell us a little bit about where you recommend people go and they source their outsourcers? Because there's lots of places for it. I've had mixed experiences with a lot of them, and sometimes I get people who lie and say that they can do things that they can't. And then sometimes I find really, really good people, and I've never really found the right place, or I guess the perfect approach. You gave some really good tips into the hiring process, but where are the places that you really recommend people look?
Well, look, if you're looking for a job to job or a task by task type of project to outsource, you are going to be a little hit and miss, because the majority of the sites that are out there, like the job posting sites such as, Odesk and Elance, for example, Freelancer, these kind of sites, they will have those dodgy VAs on there.
Yeah.
just as much as the good ones. It's just the nature of the beast, unfortunately. You know, anybody who's ever put anything up on Odesk, for example, knows that you post your job, you go to sleep, you wake up in the morning, you've got 100 applications from people from all around the world. And, you know, I know for a fact that, you know, that there are many virtual assistants that are listed under different names, and all of those profiles will apply for the same position to try and edge their bets. There's some dodgy bastards out there, man. I'm telling you. I mean, there really is. And you know, the fact of the matter is, it's tough to find any one place that's perfect. And it was one of the reasons why I set up Virtual Staff Finder in the first place, is because we had so many people saying that, you know, they were spending time on job posting sites on Craigslist and other, you know, 2 or 3 other avenues out there. And they were also having mixed results as well, finding people here in the Philippines. Yeah. And I thought, well, if there's a genuine gap in the market there, and they're also complaining about how much time it takes. I mean, that's the big thing, the time that it takes to go through all the applications and interview and do background checks and references and all the rest of it. If we can provide a service that enables people to get over the hump of that on their own, you know, that would be a really, really cool service. And I think it could take off. So we started Virtual Staff Finder, and it was funny, you know, we started it just over 3 years ago, and we said it would be great to be able to help 10 entrepreneurs a month find a VA. Now we're doing 10 times that amount, and I'm not exaggerating that number, every single month. And, you know, it's been an unbelievable growth spurt. And I think, you know, we're not perfect, don't get me wrong. You know, we don't always get it right, but we get it right a lot of the time, most of the time. And if we don't get it right the first time round, it's no big deal. We'll do it for free the second time.
And what exactly does that service do?
Well, we take your job description, we'll look at it. If it looks a bit wobbly, or if you're in la la land with what you're going to get for the money you want to pay, or, you know, whether you've, you know, decided that you're going to hire the all-elusive, other myth-gathering super VA, which apparently everybody wants, but they don't exist, where one person can do everything for you. I'm very quick to bust that myth. It does not exist. You know, once that job description is ultimately finalized, our sourcing team internally will get to work. And we have thousands and thousands of virtual assistants on our books. And we will scan our databases, go through them all, contact a load of people. Some of them obviously won't be available. Some of them will. And we'll, for those who are available, that hit the match and look like there will be a good match, we run them through, you know, everything from IQ tests to grammar tests. We interview them on the phone. If they're based out of Cebu, which is where we're based, as you know, we will ask them to come into the office and interview with us in person. And then we run background checks and do all the rest of it that we need to put together that kind of hiring package for you. And then you get 3 finalized candidates to interview via Skype, and you end up hiring the one that you like the sound of the most. Like I said, it's not a perfect process. We're not guaranteeing that this VA will work with you for 5 years. But what we do very well is enable...
You said doo-doo.
I know I did, didn't I?
Yeah, you did.
I just did it again.
Yeah.
But what we do very well is enable you to focus on other important things in your business while we're handling all the grunt work. That's what it is ultimately. It's a matchmaking service. You know, you sign up at Match.com, you don't think that you're going to fall in love and get married the first date you go on. It might take a while. It's a similar sort of situation.
Hopefully the people that you're providing interviews for are less creepy than some of the people on Match.com.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure most of them are, yeah.
All right, great. So basically you stack the odds in the entrepreneur's favor. You help pretty them, you put them in the best position to find the best person for the job that they're describing as they're describing it, and give them the best chance to find the right person to fit that slot, take over a lot of those tasks, and save the entrepreneur a lot of time.
Absolutely. That's it.
Very cool. Chris, where can people get a hold of you? And if they want to take advantage of those services, how do they do it?
Yeah, well, I mean, my mainstay, my platform online is just my blog, chrisducker.com. There's my podcast there. There's links to everything else I do, Virtual Staff Find, all the business stuff and everything as well. But that's my mainstay is chrisducker.com.
Great. Look, if you are a freedom business owner, or if you're, I don't care if you're a brick and mortar business out there, there is no replacement for having a good team that executes your plan for you so that you're focused on growing the business and doing the most productive things to drive sales and revenue to that business. And for those of us who are internet business owners, you do that with virtual assistants. Chris has a great service. Even if you don't use Chris's stuff, it's time to start identifying those low revenue tasks, those things that other people can do, and hand them off to somebody else. Chris, thanks for your insight today on how to do that.
No problems at all. It was all my pleasure to be on.
Even if you don't own a business, identifying where you spend your time and how you can spend it in a more valuable way, either monetarily or just something that makes you happier, is a key to your success as a human being, whether that's in business or just in life. Identifying where you want to spend your time and cutting out the rest is perhaps the biggest contributing factor to your success. I have virtual assistants, I have personal assistants that make sure that I'm spending my time doing the most productive, most valuable uses of my time, and I recommend you do the same. We talk about this at our blog at freedomfastlane.com. I'd love to see you there. Thanks for listening.